Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to a recap of episode 5 of the challenge Ride or Dies. Now, before we talk about what happened this week, let's just go back to last week a little bit and talk about what happened then. We lost in the elimination arena. Tommy and Sis, my fellow housemates from Big Brother season 21, just couldn't complete the elimination competition. They got sent home. The winners of that competition, another newbie group of Colleen and Kim. Now, Colleen and Kim, 3 times now that they've had to fight for their lives in the elimination arena, and yet again they take the win, but we still lost another rookie team last week. So as we see, it seems like almost every season the vets are starting to exert some influence, playing the game maybe just a little bit stronger, and we had another newbie team go home last week. We'll see if that continues this week. So we do have, right as the episode starts, Colleen talking about their win over Tommy and Sis. And Colleen is saying, I felt pretty good. I feel like everyone was cheering for myself and Kim during that elimination competition. Well, she has to be careful because it's not so much that everyone was cheering for Colleen and Kim as much as they were cheering against Tommy and Sis. If you recall, Tommy and Sis kind of had the whole house turn against them because they betrayed Horatio and Olivia. They had promised safety to both Horatio and Olivia and to Colleen and Kim. They saved Colleen and Kim. They burned Horatio and Olivia. And so kind of no one trusted them. And everyone was ready to see Tommy and Sis gone. But Colleen is saying it sounds like they were cheering for us. I don't think anyone dislikes Colleen and Kim in the house. They seem to be pretty good at the social game, charismatic people and all that. But in terms of competitions and everything else, there's still another set of newbies, very strong. They've proven that they're strong competitors by the fact they've survived so many times. And so Colleen does need to be careful. And she does mention that. She says, as much as they were cheering for us, I do feel like every time we win one of these things, the target on our back just gets bigger and bigger, which is true. But you got to win the eliminations. You don't have a choice, right? But yeah, they've just been picked as a scapegoat this season. We had a couple of seasons ago, Jay was the same way. Jay continually got picked, competed over and over again. Well, this season it's going to be Colleen and Kim. They're where the targets on their back, but so far, so good. Now, talking about people who are feeling a little bit at risk, we go to Michelle talking, feeling like maybe she and Jay are kind of straddling the line. Yeah, officially they're part of the vets, but she really feels like as soon as all the rest of the rookies or all the rookies are gone in the house, that Jay and Michelle probably would be the first ones that get sent into the elimination arena. So she's not really feeling good about her position in the game, and I think that's a valid concern. But we have that, and then we get away from the strategy for just a little bit. We have a pool party taking place. And I got to say, it looks like just about everyone in this house is pairing off as romantic couples. A lot of love in the air as people relax after this competition before they get back into the grind of strategy, a little grime as well, back into the strategy of competition, backstabbing, betrayal, everything that takes place on a challenge. But yeah, we see a lot of people pairing off during that little pool party. All right, I mentioned Michelle feeling a little out of sorts with the rest of the group. Well, she's not the only one. We've got Darrell and Veronica also talking, and they're saying they realize, even though they're vets and they've been playing the game for a long time, but they feel like they're in a bad position because they just came into the game. They didn't start off the season playing. They were one of these surprise teams that JT brought in. JT, you saying that TJ brought in. So they're feeling like they're still a little bit on the outside, that they just haven't established a connections yet because they haven't been in the house long enough. And of all the vets, they're thinking that they're probably the least protected of the vets. So you've got Darrell and Veronica feeling this way. You've got Michelle and Jay both feeling this way. When you feel like you're at the bottom, do you make a big move? Do you play along for a little bit longer and then you make a big move? A lot of things to be considered this week. But first, you got to win the challenge, right? All right, we've got Michelle and Amber talking a little bit. Amber's kind of the same way. Amber's always felt like she wasn't quite accepted by the rest of the people in the house, the vets in the house, etc. But Michelle and Amber are talking, and Michelle is talking about her relationship with Laurel, of all people. And she's just feeling like something is off with Laurel. The communication, the talk, just hasn't been that free flowing, easy conversations. Just something that just doesn't click when she talks to Laurel. So she's worried about that. But it becomes a complicated situation because as much as she doesn't feel like she's clicking with Laurel, Laurel's ride or die is Jack, and Jack and Michelle's ride or die Jay. So Jack and Jay tight like this. We get some conversations about how much they like hanging around with each other, how they're just friends with each other. So Michelle and Laurel like this, Jack and Jay like this. Who wins out? Who wins out in terms of working with or working against those two teams? Not really sure at this particular point or time because they're one side certainly get along better than the other side of those ride or die duos. So with all that being said, as I mentioned before, it all comes down to who wins the daily challenge to figure out who has the power to figure out who gets to decide whether we're going to work with you or be working against you. So let's talk about the challenge itself. This week's challenge, the Burger King challenge, the Royal Relay. It's got a nice ring to it, right? Well, it turns out it is indeed a relay. It's a relay race on the water, on the river, I think, as opposed to lake, but it's on the water. Each duo is using boats to run in two heats because there's still so many duos up. There's a lot of people playing this game. A relay race, each duo has to use boats and swimming to gather 4 different pieces of a crown on this river, and then put the 4 pieces back together back at the original platform. Whoever can do it the fastest out of all the teams wins safety, and they win $5,000 from Burger King. I'm not sure if that's $5,000 cash or $5,000 in Whoppers. Probably cash. Whoppers would be okay too. Yeah, I'd take the cash, but Whoppers sound pretty good as well. But it's going to be a relay race, and again, it's all water-based competition, so we'll see how people do on that. So the first heat takes off, and again, it's run in 2 separate heats. One of the duos in the first heat is Michelle and Jay. They start off the early lead. The first round of this heat, or the first leg of this heat, is swimming out to the first platform. They're going fast, a lot faster than anyone else. So Michelle and Jay get the early lead. They keep it up as they get to the second leg, which is a rowing leg, and as it turns out, it's not even really that close. Jay and Michelle win the first heat going away. No one else even coming close to them. So they've won their heat, but again, there's 2 heats. They've got to beat the time of the second heat winner as well. We'll find out who that is. So we start off with the second heat. Right off the bat, it seems like Tori and Devin are taking the early lead with Fessel and Mariah right behind them in second place. Really neck and neck for the first part of this race, until Mariah has to row the boat to the next leg to get the next piece of the crown. Mariah just doesn't have the idea of rowing figured out quite yet. The synchronization between the 2 hands and up and down, she just doesn't have it fixed. Faisal is a little, not yelling at her, but we'll call it frustrated. He's a little frustrated that she's having some issues with the rowing, but he's more laughing than he's upset, but he's more laughing than he is yelling at her or anything else. But yeah, Mariah just can't quite figure out the rowing. And it's funny, Nani's not doing any better with bananas in their boat. I guess you just muscle memory something. If you haven't done it before, maybe it's a little tough to do, but not doing well at all. Now, who is doing well, who's giving Tori and Devin a run for their money? Colleen and Kim, who've won the last 3 eliminations arenas, or won 3 so far. Going fast. It looks like they may overtake Tori and Devin, solve this thing first, but it isn't to be. Tori and Devin have won the second heat, so it's either going to be Jay or Michelle or Tori and Devin that take the title this week, and the winner turns out to be Jay and Michelle. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how they play the game. I mentioned the very first of the season. I'm cheering for Jay just because he had to compete so many times in his first season, just over and over. They put him in elimination arena. So I'm glad he's getting a little bit more of a chance to compete this week. Well, now he's not just competing to survive. He's won the weekly challenge. So now they control who's going to go in for elimination and who's going to have to fight for safety and such. So Jay and Michelle have won the whole thing. And we got to figure out who their targets are going to be. Now, it could be incredibly dangerous for Nany and Bananas. I may be wishing they could row that boat just a little bit better, because it could be very dangerous for them, because Nany and Bananas already won a weekly competition and put Michelle and Jay in the elimination arena. So, turnabout is fair play and all of that. You would think that Nany and Bananas would be an easy target. If you're willing to go after the vets, if you're willing to take the shot after a pretty big, strong team, right? Are you going to burn other people if you do that? That's something they're going to have to think about. So who are they going to bring to interrogation? Michelle is pushing for Laurel and Jack, and because obviously Michelle and Laurel aren't clicking, as she said. So she's pushing for Laurel and Jack. Jay seems okay with it. Even though he and Jack are so tight, Jay saying, yeah, if you got to do it, you got to do it. And gameplay is different from personal and emotional and all that. So we do what we have to do. So they're talking about that. Apparently they had heard that Aneesa and Jordan had mentioned their names as possible targets. So it seems like Aneesa and Jordan may get pulled in. And then some of the other names that are thrown out there, Veronica and Darrell. Remember, they said they didn't feel like they had the connections yet. And it's turning out to be the case, because their name is mentioned as a possible duo to bring in, as is to be expected. Nany and Bananas is another duo. Now, there's a lot of conversation about whether or not they bring in Nany and Bananas, whether that benefits their game, whether it hurts their game. Michelle is thinking that by not picking Bananas and Nany, it's kind of a throwing a bone to them. That it's something that hopefully they will remember when they win a challenge somewhere down the road, and that maybe Nany and Bananas will protect Jay and Michelle in exchange for not putting them up. Jay is saying, I get it, but I just don't trust Bananas. Even if we do this, I don't trust Bananas. And I got to say, I'm kind of on Jay's side at this point in time. Yeah, if you don't do it, Bananas will say thank you and all of that. And he may save you at some point in the future, but only if it benefits his game. If it doesn't help his game to save you, I don't think what you've done in the past to save him is going to matter to a hill of beans. He'll still put you up. So I'm kind of with Jay on this, that you just can't trust Bananas. He plays this game too hard, too well. But Michelle's really pushing, saying, look, let's do them a favor and see if they don't return the favor. And we'll find out. So in the end, there are 4 duos picked by Jay and Michelle, and it turns out to be Laurel and Jack, Aneesa and Jordan, which is not going to make Aneesa happy at all. Colleen and Kim again, and Veronica and Darrell. So we basically have 3 vet teams that have been picked and 1 newbie team going forward. So a little different from some of the weeks in the past. All right, so we got Bananas and Nany talking about it and basically saying, look, I'm amazed. I think Bananas at one point even tells Jason, I'm really surprised that you didn't put us up. But they both agree that because they weren't put up, they kind of owe Michelle and Jay for not putting them up, that they owe them. They'll have to return the favor at some point in the future. We'll see. Again, if it's not really hurting their game, they may give them the benefit of the doubt, but it will only go so far. But they're saying, yeah, we owe you guys. Thank you. That wasn't expected it, but thank you so much. And we certainly will remember that. So with that being said, let's talk about the interrogation itself. Each of these 4 duos has to come in, talk to Michelle and Jay. Well, I guess they don't have to talk, as we're going to find out, but it seems like it would be a good idea to talk and try to curry some favor with the team that's going to decide who's competing for elimination and who the 3 are that'll have to fight for safety and all that. So the first conversation we have is with Michelle and Jay talking to Darrell and Veronica. Michelle's kind of backpedaling a little bit or playing it safe by saying, look, we don't know who's going to be going to elimination. We just wanted to bring all of y'all in and see what's going on, and we just haven't decided yet. Veronica, she's just incredulous that Bananas and Nany weren't brought in, saying, what were y'all thinking? Why would you bring us in instead of Nany and Bananas? We don't have any connections. We don't have strength. Why in the world would you bring us in? And I kind of get it. It's dangerous. This season, having to bring in 4 duos means there's a lot of blood. Nelson talked about this a week or 2 ago. It means there's a lot of blood on your hands, because you've got 4 duos that you've picked who could be going into the elimination arena. So you've got a lot of people that could theoretically be upset with you. I think by the time you've got your 4 people that you're interrogating, that you've put up, you probably need to be really certain about who you're going to put up for elimination, so that instead of Michelle saying, well, we don't know what we're going to do yet, in other words, it could be you, we're just not saying it is. I feel like it may be better off to know who your target is, play safe with them a little better, kind of hem-haw around, not and such. But with the others, say, look, you're not going in, you're not going in. Do what you can to really emphasize that you don't want them to go in, that they're going to be safe. Well, we don't really get that this week. So they talked to Darrell and Veronica. Next, they talked to Colleen and Kim. And Michelle is saying, look, the issue is just that we've never talked game. We've never had any conversations about strategy or anything else that makes y'all easy targets. Well, my question to that is, why haven't you already talked game? We saw Michelle talking earlier, saying that she didn't feel like she had this tight connection. They were at the very bottom of the pecking order with regards to the vets. If that's the case, why not, before it comes down to having to pick people for elimination and such, why not reach out to some of the stronger newbie rookie teams and have some conversations? Try to create a little protection back and forth. And if you feel like you're at the bottom of the pecking order for the vets, maybe that suggests that you need to, or that you have an opportunity to ride the line a little bit. If you're at the bottom of one group, maybe that makes you a little more attractive to the other group as well, being the rookie. So yeah, she's right in that they haven't had any conversations, which makes it easy to put Colleen Kim up. But again, my question is, maybe should have had those conversations a little bit earlier. They say the same thing to Jordan and Aneesa as well, saying, look, we just haven't really talked enough to make it work. And same situation, talk to Jordan and Aneesa, but it hadn't happened. And Aneesa's feeling very betrayed that she got put in, whether they go up for elimination or not. Just the fact that her name was even mentioned to begin with is going to burn some bridges between her and Michelle. This is a situation where I really think, because Michelle a little bit later says, look, you wouldn't be the primary vote anyway. I think if you're going to put the two of them up, unless you're planning to put them in elimination, this is a point where you probably say, look, we had to put you up for appearances' sakes or whatever, but we're not putting you in. There's no way we're putting you. Y'all are safe. Y'all are friends. It's tough, but you're safe. That doesn't happen. It's more conversation about, we just didn't talk. So, I think that may come back to bite Michelle and Jay just a little bit. We'll see. Finally, we get Jack and Laurel coming in for their interrogation. Interrogation is a pretty good word, isn't it, for what goes on here? Now, I mentioned that the four duos picked have to come in and talk to the champion, the winners of the weekly challenge. Well, you don't really have to talk, as I mentioned, and that's the case with Jack and Laurel. They're not playing the game. They're not in there kind of kissing the ring and doing what they can to try to make the team, the deciding team, the deciding duo, choose not to send them in elimination. They're not kissing up to them and doing whatever they can to save themselves. They pretty much just came in there and said, well, you did what you did, and why do we have to deal with it? They pretty much stayed quiet the whole time, wouldn't really answer any questions, just sat in there, stared at them a little bit, popped up, and they're done with it. I guess there's something to be said for their gumption and their willingness just to say, yeah, I'm not playing the game. If you want to put us in there, put us in there. But from a salvation, from a safety standpoint, it seems like a dangerous way to play the game. But yeah, they pretty much let me know they're not playing the game. Do what you got to do, but we're not kissing up to you. We're just not going to do it. All right. So then after this, we've got a conversation between Michelle and Jay about who do they pick to send into elimination. Who do they not pick and potentially give them some safety. And they've basically said that they're going to try to pick based on who, if they don't send an elimination arena, could potentially win and then save them in return as a result of it. I kind of think once you've picked the four duos, you've made that choice. At that point in time, I almost feel like you need to go after the strongest target, hope they go home, because otherwise, even if you kind of don't pick them for the full elimination, you've still burned some bridges. There's still a good chance they're going to come after you, but they are certainly keeping that in mind. Who, if we don't send them into the elimination, could save us in return somewhere down the road. So that's a lot of their consideration. Now, we do have some individual conversations that take place. Jake is talking to Jay, really trying to to depend on this tight bond these two guys have formed to save themselves. He's suggesting to Jay that really Colleen and Kim would be the easy pick. Instead, send them in for elimination. And there's something to be said for that, because if they do that, Michelle and Jay are not going to upset the vets, I don't think, or certainly not upset them as much. Send in the rookie team. It just creates a little bit more bond with the vets as well. And that's what Jay is promoting, or Jack's promoting, saying, hey, don't send Colleen and Kim in, send the rookies as well. Meanwhile, we've got Aneesa trying to talk to Michelle and trying to convince her not to send them in, her and Jordan, into elimination. And this is where I feel like Michelle wasn't solid enough or strong enough in her response, because she just said, look, you wouldn't be the primary vote anyway. Even if we send you in, you're not, you wouldn't be the primary vote. Well, if you put them in for elimination, you're kind of saying what you think of the relationship. So I think if she's going to save Aneesa at this point, she needs to be a lot more solid, saying, yeah, we're not doing anything for you. So I mean, we're not going to put you in for elimination, and we're counting on safety to save you all that. All right. With all of that being said, with these conversations, is Daryl and Veronica, or Colleen and Kim, the top pick for elimination? Jack's trying to get Jay to save him. Aneesa's trying to get Michelle to save her. The two people that don't really have the tighter connections with Jay and Michelle would be Daryl and Veronica, and Colleen and Kim. Certainly from an emotional standpoint, those would be the easiest duos to send in. We'll see what happens. Now, we do have, before we go to the actual elimination stage of this show, we've got Darrell wondering. He's saying, look, Veronica and we don't have the connections with the vets just yet. If that is the excuse that's used, if we are going to be put into the elimination arena week after week because we're just the easy ones that don't have the connections, well, then if that's the case, why not work with Colleen and Kim, who already have been up there 3 times, are going to, potentially be up a 4th time? Why not work with them? Because if they are continually down there in the arena, we're continually down there. We could work with each other, promise that if we grab the safety dagger, we'll protect them, and vice versa. So Darrell's thinking about it, and it's really this idea of, if we have to pick someone else, if we get the safety dagger, if we have to pick someone else to go in the elimination arena, do we pick the rookies and make all the vets happy? Or do we pick one of the other vet teams, save the rookies, and start working with them a little bit tighter? It's an interesting approach. Either approach is valid. It just depends on, I guess it depends on it. Do you think that you truly are the bottom of the barrel and are going to be going into elimination over and over again? And if so, do you cast your lot with a strong rookie team of Colleen and Kim? Or are you just scared enough of the vets that you stick with them, even if it isn't necessarily the safest thing for your game? Well, we may find out, but at first we've got to go to the elimination arena itself and find out who's going in for who's picked to compete for the first spot in the elimination competition. And as it turns out, Jay and Michelle have picked to go into the elimination Laurel and Jack. Yeah, Michelle wins out, I guess. Michelle's dislike of Laurel was stronger than Jay's liking of Jack, or at least her strategic reasons for putting him in won out over Jay's emotional connections and bonds to Jack, because Laurel and Jack are going in. Laurel's not happy. Jack's not happy. Neither one of them's happy that they're going to be competing for elimination. Jay's pretty much right out there. In fact, TJ says, what's going on here? And Jay says, look, it's not Jack's fault. I like Jack. It is not Jack's fault. He's just attached to the wrong partner. He makes it pretty clear that it's all about Laurel. That's why she's going in. In fact, before we had this elimination, we had a final conversation where Michelle was talking to Laurel and just saying, look, I'm just trying to hash things out and see if there's some ways we can work through this and all. And Laurel was having none of it. Laurel basically said, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're doing. You put me in. You've made it pretty clear. Why are you coming to me now? And Laurel just doesn't play the game. It's just an interesting approach. So Jay is saying, look, it's not Jack. It's all about Laurel. She just isn't playing the game with us. That's why they're in the ring. So everyone's aware that Laurel is the square peg in this game, so to speak, and at least in terms of the relationship with Jay and Michelle. So we know that Laurel and Jack are going to be in the elimination competition, but who else is going to be in there? Well, remember this season, the 3 duos that aren't picked to compete then have to draw the daggers, and whoever gets a safety dagger then gets to save one other couple. And this week it turns out that safety is won by Darrell and Veronica. Remember that conversation where Darrell was wondering if they should cast their lots with the newbies of Colleen and Kim, or maybe try to protect, stay with the vets and not make them mad. Well, as it turns out, they save Colleen and Kim. No, they don't. They save Aneesa and Jordan instead, so they're sticking with the vets. In fact, Veronica even says something along the lines of, Aneesa, I tried to give you a chance to talk to me, to give me some reasons to save you and all, and I just don't really feel like you gave it. Maybe it's a little bit of editing, but it looks like she kind of called out Aneesa a little bit before then saying, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to stick with the vets. I'm going to do what I think I need to do. So Aneesa and Jordan, y'all are safe. Colleen and Kim, you're going in. If I'm Veronica, I'm not sure I'm doing that. Why potentially alienate Aneesa a little bit more? Why make her think that maybe she's going in? Why call her out in front of everyone else and suggest that maybe it's Aneesa's the reason that they were in there in the first place? I just don't know that any of that helps Veronica's game. I feel like if you're going to give them safety, just come right out and say, there's no way that I would ever not protect this duo. It's got to be Aneesa and Jordan. Every day, every week, we're saving Aneesa and Jordan. Make it as clear as possible. She doesn't do that, and I feel like that may haunt her a little bit on down the road. But it doesn't matter at this point in time. We've got Colleen and Kim for the 4th time they're going to be competing for their lives, this time against Laurel and Jack. And so that's who we got. Now, the competition itself, it's a fun one. This competition is a little tough to describe. Picture a giant cube, a 4-sided cube, as most of them are. Well, I guess 6 sides, but we're not counting top and bottom. A cube, 20 feet high or so. The duos are attached to a single rope with a pulley on the top, which means as one person's at the top of the cube, the other one's on the other side at the bottom. As one moves up, the other one moves down. One side has a completed puzzle, and the puzzle pieces are little 4-sided pyramids that have different colored backgrounds, different symbols, hearts, swords, etc. So they're all set up in a grid on one side. So one person in the duo knows the configuration of all these little puzzle pieces. On the other side are small versions of these puzzle pieces. And so there's a lot of communication involved. The person who can see how this puzzle has been solved has to yell out to the other person, who has to go up and down this wall with climbing holds, climbing grasp, grab all the puzzle pieces, and then set them up in the correct, replicate what the order is on the completed version, replicate it on a smaller little model that's next to their wall. Whoever can do it fastest survives. The other ones go home. So in this competition, communication is the key. Absolutely the key. Now, here's what's interesting. Colleen and Kim are German, right? They're both German. And yet during the competition, I hear them talking to each other in English when communication is so key. German is their primary language, both of them. I was a little surprised that they weren't speaking German the whole way through. It makes me wonder, are there rules about the challenge that maybe they are required to communicate in English during the competitions just for us English-speaking viewers? I don't know. It's something I want to ask somewhere down the road, because they definitely were speaking English, at least the part we saw. But we see the puzzle competition begin. These two duos have slightly different approaches. Laurel and Jack are trying to solve the puzzle piece one at a time. Jack is the one who's actually looking at the completed puzzle. So he's saying, okay, the top upper left, it's a pink background with a blue heart. And then on the bottom, it's an orange with a yellow sword, whatever the symbol is. Laurel's grabbing that piece, going down, setting it up on the ground, but basically one at a time building the puzzle before she puts it all in the little slide, the little model that holds it together. They're doing it one at a time. Colleen and Kim are doing a little bit differently. They're actually grabbing, Kim is going up and grabbing all the pieces at first, setting them all on the ground. Once he's retrieved all the pieces, then Colleen, while he's on the ground, that means Colleen's lifted up in the air. Colleen is then hollering out the configuration of each of these pieces, and Kim is then able to solve it on the ground. It seems like maybe that's a little bit more efficient because there's not as much going up and down between them. And so it seems like that's working a little bit better. And in fact, it is working better because Colleen and Kim seem like they've gotten the puzzle solved first. They've got everything set up in the little frame first. Meanwhile, while they're about done, Jack is really having some issues with the communication, and Laurel isn't helping much either. She's starting to yell. She's getting a little frustrated, so she's starting to yell at Jack a little bit. Just doesn't seem like this team is jiving together real well at this point. And as a result, with the different strategies, a little bit better communication, perhaps, Colleen and Kim have the puzzle all set up first. They ask TJ to check it out. Have they solved it correctly? No, they have not. And here's the issue. If you haven't solved it correctly, it's tough to figure out. There's probably 20 pieces. What is it? Probably 8. There could be 30 or 40, 36 pieces, maybe 6 by 6, something like that. It's a big puzzle. Figuring out which piece is correct, which one is incorrect is difficult. It basically involves a person on the corrected side, the finished side, to yell out every single piece until they figure out where they're correct. So Colleen and Kim have a piece, at least one piece incorrect. It gives Jack and Laurel the opportunity to catch back up. Jack and Laurel solve their puzzle. Have they solved it correctly? No, they're incorrect as well. So now it comes down to a race. Which side is going to figure out which piece is incorrect first, fix it? Well, as it turns out, who can fix it faster? Laurel and Jack. Yeah, Laurel and Jack come from behind, and they were behind. They have come from behind. They win the competition, which means, I kind of hate to see it. Colleen and Kim, the 4th time ran out for them. 3 times before they fought for their lives, they won. 4th time, it finally just wasn't to be. So Colleen and Kim are going home. Remember, I talked at the very earliest part of this episode that Colleen was talking about everyone was cheering for them. Well, as it turns out, they were cheering against Tommy Sis, but they may have been cheering for them as well, because everyone really seems upset to see him gone. Faisal certainly not happy to see Colleen gone. He and her, he calls her his cuddle buddy. So he's not real happy, but it seems like they didn't really make enemies of anyone in this house. They were friendly with everyone, very nice couple of people. I would love to see them come back for another season of the challenge, because just like Jay from a couple of seasons ago, I just feel like they were the scapegoats from the very beginning. They had to fight for their lives, and eventually their time just ran out. I'd love to see them back. That probably won't be the case, but I enjoyed watching them play, and they gave it everything they had. They certainly represented themselves well, but it means that we have lost yet another newbie rookie team from the house. The vets continue to control this thing, even this week, with only one rookie team in the mix, and they went home. So yeah, congratulations to Colleen and Kim for fighting so well and playing the game as hard as they did. It just wasn't to be. So they go home, which means Laurel and Jack are still in the game, and they are not happy with Michelle and Jay. We're going to see what the repercussions are next week, but certainly it's setting up to be quite a potential battle between primarily Laurel and Michelle. Now, Jay called out Laurel as well, so no love lost there either, but it's going to be interesting to see how the game plays out going forward. So there you have it. We lost another rookie team, a team I really hope they'd go a little bit further, but it is what it is. We'll find out what happens next week. Guys, and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be back again next Wednesday to talk about episode 6. Until then, SKD143. Cheers, my friends.